Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Dr. Sahasrabudhe is here with us. So I will first introduce Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe and then introduce the topic of today. So, education is for light, for freedom, for peace and joy in our lives. And we are delighted to have Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, Chairman, AICTE, to speak to us on the future of education. He speaks so well, and we have heard him so many times. Every time we have insight, and it's a delight to listen to him. So I will also talk about, it's an honor to have him, for he is a scholar and professor in mechanical engineering, and therefore he understands all the engineering aspects of education and re-engineering as well of education policy, education futures, and he understands all the laws of mechanics of implementing the policies. There is so much that he is doing today. We are indeed delighted. He is an institution builder, having been director of Pune College of Engineering and then transforming it and facilitating the growth, the starting of many colleges, universities, institutions in the country. He is a reformer of education, especially higher technical education, facilitating change. He has brought in so much the facilitating aspect to AICTE, rather than being the regulator with inspector, license, Raj kind of. He has moved away from that, and we are very grateful to him for it. He has brought in a lot of innovations, and so he's an innovator, rolling out many innovative AICTE services to students, to faculty, faculty development, institutions, institutional development, to states to have educational planning, and the union territories and the country itself as a whole. Really a nation builder, therefore, and highly appreciated all over the country and the world, and is adorned by many awards in his lifetime career. Yes, sir, we are eagerly waiting to hear from you, as you're one of the architects and implementer of NEP 2020, and to see the future of education, you see it far better than most of us and maybe all of us. You have so much insight, so much data, so much understanding. We will definitely benefit from your inspiration. Let me briefly introduce the topic of the day so that our minds and hearts are open to the enlightenment. Let's say a few words on the education landscape as it appears in reality in our country today. There are several ways of speaking about the future. First of all, education in India began as a private institution, then the state comes in and regulates the education. And there are compulsions of economic development and politics that change almost everything in the education landscape. Nevertheless, here is the picture of the landscape. In the primary, secondary, and qualifying education, we have 1.5 million schools in the country with about 335 million enrolled students, and there may be more now. And there are about 8.5 million teachers in the qualifying education space. That is followed by higher education, where we have more than 903 universities, both private and public. We have 39,050 colleges, affiliated and autonomous, all put together. Then we have 10,011 standalone institutions in the country. 500 of the universities are general multidisciplinary universities, 126 technical universities, 70 agriculture and allied studies universities, 58 medical universities, 22 law universities, 13 Sanskrit universities, and 10 language universities. We have over 36.6 million students, and that number is growing, and the country aims to double that number in the coming years. And that's a big impact it's going to have. Also, the proportion of girls in the higher education space is 47.6%, and it's also growing. Maybe it is, I don't know. This is a year ago figures, and this may have changed. So government decided to change the direction through NEP 2020. We shall hear about it. Also, the pandemic led large-scale disruption and loss of learning. We have recovered some of it, but this is one of the things, how smart virus sort of our future depends on what we do with it. And so we have experienced disruptions, and then so if we talk about the future, therefore, future is a general word described and measured or defined in many ways. Vision is one, prediction is another, plans, long-term plans is another, disruptive future, strategy, and a host of other ways. But there are also some distinctive ways of speaking about the future, about 4 different. One of them is the will, the future that we can promise to our people. And this is the one that builds the nation, our society, our economy, our future. So what is the promise education holds in the way we do it? What promise we make to our children, students, to youth, working people, and to all persons, irrespective of their status in life or category in which they're born, or the economic status, and so on. In the next 25 years, when India reaches 100 years of independence as a republic, so a constitutional republic. So we have the role of the state, role of the center, role of institutions, almost private and public space, and so on. And what has happened, another development that has taken place in the landscape is EdTech revolution in the country. There are more than some 4,450 EdTech companies that started, startups, so some are at different levels. Many of them in Bangalore and Delhi, and they are trying to bridge the skill gap, and there is so much of skilling and reskilling that is necessary. And so the future is very dynamic. So in the next 25 years, maybe all Indians may learn maybe Python or AI, or even the privacy threats may be there, whatever is happening. So the question is what we can really promise, commit ourselves to that promise, and deliver on that promise to future learners. And therefore we hope in a meaningful future. We are the creators of a meaningful future. We hope in an orderly future, in the order of things to come, a sustainable future on a livable planet and in a just ecosystem and society. So there are then some conditional futures like EdTech options and future tech and so on. So when so much of the future depends on smart viruses and pandemic, we all have suffered from it, we have recovered partly. What will education be like in the coming years, in the next 25 years from now? Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe, we all want to listen to you. You can shed light on, you are a rising sun that sheds its rays upon us. Most welcome.
Thank you for the kind words, Professor Father Paul Fernandes. You have been yourself a great educationist, and coming from you, those words really give me more encouragement that I must be doing even better than what I am today doing. Well, the AIMA, this particular regional management conclave with the title Bruised New World, Leading Transformation Amidst Uncertainty, and also the future of education, the topic which is given to me as part of the plenary session 2. I'm just trying to reflect, before talking about the future of education, how education itself grew from very ancient times, which was more specific to very small segment of the population, very small set of students sitting together, to how it has become a mass education. If you look at the millennia, before, starting from what is known as Gurukula in our Indian system, there may be maybe 50 odd, 100 odd shishas, or the students who used to go to the residence of the gurus. So the students were traveling to place in a forest and then get education in a small setup. It was not more than maybe 100, 200 students in one place. But gradually, as we moved forward, and that was education in mostly oral tradition, because there was no writing, reading possibilities, and therefore everything was mostly oral. Gradually, centuries later, we have had the system where we also got what to write onto the leaves, etc., Tamra Pratras, then on the blackboard. Now, today we talk about whiteboard, but then it was a blackboard with a chalk. And subsequently, in the last century, we started off with overhead projectors so that large number of students could see what is being written from a little more distance. Liquid crystal display, LCD displays, internet. Today we talk about YouTube lectures, MOOC platforms, even indigenously developed MOOC platforms, Swayam. And then ODL, online and distance learning programs, be it IGNOU and some other universities in India as well as in abroad. Huge number of students getting education. That is the true mass education, right from school to higher education in the form of open learning. We have NIOS, we have IGNOU University at the center, but every state nearly has one open university. And therefore, education has spread wide and depth. And what we see today is from mere 0.7% gross enrollment ratio at the time of independence in the higher education reached 27% today. But still long way to go, because the new national education policy is dreaming about making it 50% by about next 10 to 15 years. So what we achieved in 75 years, we are now following what is known as Amrut Mahotsav, and the Prime Minister as well as just now Professor Paul Fernandes also talked about the next 25 years. And by the turn of 100 years of India's independence, where should we be? I'm sure we would have at least 60-65% gross enrollment ratio in higher education by that time. A fully empowered society. Anyone who wants to have higher education should not be deprived of that. And all variety of education, be it skill education, vocational education, be it technical or professional education, including management education, or any type like medicine, law, anyone who has a particular choice to learn, he or she must not be deprived. And that is why often we talk about Antyodaya, the last man, one who is in the remotest tribal area, remotest village in some state. He or she also must get equal opportunity to study, to empower oneself, to learn what that person wants to learn. And that is the future of education in India as well as probably world over. And that's why when you talk about a bruised new world leading transformation amidst this uncertainty, I suddenly remembered the word VUCA world. And this is a terminology which came in the 80s called volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, VUCA world. And in my earlier, many of the talks I have mentioned that world may be VUCA, world may be ambiguous, world may be really complex. There are lots of uncertainties and which come without our notice. Who had imagined maybe by the end of 2019 that there would be a virus and which will create havoc in the whole world? But come end of 2019, somewhere around December, a small segment started getting affected. And by March 2020, the whole world was affected. There were lockdowns all over the world, no travel, all restrictions. The colleges got closed. And therefore, such uncertainties, when they came in, we have to rise to the occasion. And that's why these very words, VUCA, when you reverse the letters, the A, accept it. This problem, uncertainty is going to be there, is there. Accept it and change our attitude, be positive. And if you do positive attitude, and the next letter, the complex C, should be changed to collaboration, cooperation between institutions, between organizations. If you do that, and uncertainty is there, but that U stands for untiring efforts, united efforts by all concerned. If you do that, that V volatile will evaporate, and then we will be victorious, V for victory. And that is what we did it in the last 2 years, despite all odds. Maybe several lakhs and lakhs of people had virus infection. Some of them, in fact, unfortunately lost their lives. But as a nation, as a society, we stood up and we created that V vaccine, which helped not only our country, but the whole world. And that is the spirit of what education can do, how we should be able to lead the way for not only our country, but the whole world. And this is what is leading the transformation amidst uncertainty. Our nation has shown the way. Many of our regulatory bodies have shown the way. Our educational institutions have shown the way. Although it was not their task, I have seen many educational institutions having created their own way of helping people around, maybe in terms of creating sanitizers in their chemistry laboratories, maybe creating masks by using some different variety of textile and helping the poor citizens who cannot afford to buy that mask, creating even oxygen ventilators in our workshops and laboratories to supply oxygen for the patients. So that means education, when it is being given in the right doses, right perspective, a lot of innovations happen, which is helpful for the nation. The second part which happened was we had certainly, as I said, online education to some extent, ODL, that is distance education to a great extent. There were, of course, right from what we call Khan Academy to Coursera to MIT edX-like platforms, which are MOOC platforms, massive online open courses. We also ourselves developed our own Swayam platform for MOOC with more than 2,500 courses. The number of students who are using was gradually increasing from 100,000, that is 1 lakh, to 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh, and up to about 1 crore. But pandemic changed the whole circumstances. That uncertainty that college can start, may not start was there, but we did not stop education. There are many countries in the world where the education came to a standstill, but we did not do it. Right from nursery, primary, high school, college, university, including conduct of research, wherever possible, we continued our journey of education, journey of excellence in whatever way, whatever possible. And that lesson which we have learned is going to pave the way for introducing new national education policy in right perspective to be a mass education, to cater to the choice of the students. We have already got what we call choice-based credit system followed by UGC for quite some time in many of the institutions, including IIMs and XLRIs, as well as IITs of the world. We already had choice-based credit system for a long time, that although you will do a generic course, you have opportunity of taking some of the credits of your choice based on the specialization that you want to achieve. And this is going to become more and more. You may have a generic degree, but huge amount of specialization will come in from the type of courses one wants to take. And this need not be from the same educational institution. And that's why UGC as well as AICTE in the beginning, when the MOOC platform Swayam was created, we said 20% of the course credits can be taken from the MOOC platform. You may not have teachers in that domain, but you may take courses from best teachers available on the MOOC platform from anywhere else, from any other institution. A student from maybe XLRI can take a course from IIM Ahmedabad or Bangalore, and vice versa, if the course is available on the MOOC platform. So this 20% was ongoing. Meanwhile, because of the pandemic, when all the education became online and people got used to it, teachers got used to it, students got used to it, we increased it from 20% to 40%. Or blended learning, where part of the program can be in the classroom, part of the program will be in an online mode. many people ask questions about what about some of the experiments. I would like to reassure you that there are large number of virtual lab experiments which have been created much before pandemic by all IITs and few other institutions like IIIT Hyderabad, College of Engineering, Pune, NIT Surathkal, and institution in Agra, that we have had an opportunity, including conducting of experiments in maybe physics, in chemistry, in engineering like electronics, in computer science, in instrumentation. And these are all simulation-based experiments. Of course, you would not be touching the actual equipment, but you will get hang and feel of almost you are trying to conduct the experiment by yourself. It is not only such virtual, not only such simulation-based experiments, but many institutions are also developing what is known as remote controlled experiments, where for conducting an experiment on a very expensive equipment, which all institutions cannot afford, a slot can be booked and an experiment can be conducted by operating an equipment from a distance, thousands of kilometers away, using internet capability of the place where the experimental setup is there and the institution where the learning is required to take place. So these remote controlled labs are also coming into place. Therefore, more and more credits now today can be easily earned through virtual means, through internet-based means, and therefore number of students whom education can be catered, that is mass education, has become much more easier than ever before. And during this current budget session, based on what we talk about NEP 2020, the finance minister has already announced the starting of a digital university, and there is a funding which is going to be provided by the ministry to create a digital university, 100% programs all delivered in a digital means with a philosophy of hub and spoke. There may be a central hub, maybe a government institution or an organization to be created by an act of parliament with large number of institutions, both private and government, also edutech companies acting as spokes. So a student can take a choice of subjects from each one of those spokes, multiple spokes, accumulate those credits in the form of credits earned by the person in the academic bank of credits. The concept of academic bank of credits has already been placed now. The institutions are asked to onboard all the students, and every credit that they earn in the respective colleges must be provided onto that platform so that a student keeps on accumulating, and as soon as student completes the requirement of award of a degree in terms of the regulations of the university or the institution, a student will be in a position to acquire a degree. And for this, student need not be gravitating to only one institute, but can take courses from maybe a couple of institutes or more institutions, both in the physical space as well as in an online space. Can spend a semester in another institution, get those credits and get accommodated in the academic bank of credits. And total empowerment of students in terms of what he wants to learn. I'm just giving another example of much before the pandemic and before digital university is taking shape. We started in AICTE a program called NEET, National Educational Alliance for Technologies. This is for all those edutech companies who have developed several applications, which are actually many of them AI-based, artificial intelligence-based, which test the students at the beginning in a particular course, and depending on the outcome to be achieved at the end of that particular course or the program, what all is required to be learned by that student could be different. Some of the students may have some prior learning. They may be able to complete this course faster than others. Some of them who have not done anything, any background information or the knowledge that is required, may be advised to do some of the elements of that much in advance, then start off, and may take little longer time than others. While the path is different, the duration is different for different students to complete the course, the end result whatever may be your starting point, the end point, outcome at the end of that course is exactly similar. Of course, there may be gradation in terms of your ability to learn as much as it is possible, but overall objective of the course is achieved by the students at the end of the program or at the end of that particular course. Such AI-based National Educational Alliance for Technologies came into existence in 2017-18 itself. And after first version, NEET 1, then NEET 2, now NEET 3 is ongoing. And I'm sure many of these companies, who are all edutech companies, are providing huge number of skill-based courses. Because many a times our students do graduate with an arts degree or a commerce or a management or an engineering or an architecture or a pharmacy degree, but many of them are found to be wanting in actual practical applications and the skill sets. Such add-on programs, such courses will help in increasing their employability multifold. And not only it is multifold increase in employability, in the process, the entire course takes them through a journey that many a times these students get several innovative ideas and may not join a job, although they are employable. They may start their own entrepreneurial journey, create their own startup, in fact, give jobs to others. And therefore, the future of education is all about learning and learning and learning. And this learning can never stop. And as pointed out by both earlier Professor Paul as well as many others in different domains, and I was listening to the previous session also, industry people were also talking about the same, that if someone does not continue to learn, they will be left by the wayside. There will be no job for such people. They will not be able to survive in this planet because learning has to be continuous. And this learning to be continuous, to be lifelong, requires ability to learn by oneself. And therefore, more than the course content, how do we learn a particular subject by oneself is more important. Therefore, learning to learn is one of the most important subjects that every student has to go through, right from school education to the highest education. And one cannot stop learning from birth to death. And that is what philosophy has to be imbibed. And if we have to talk about this, about students to be lifelong learners, the persons who are going to advocate this, those who are telling this, they must first become lifelong learners. That means the teachers. And therefore, teachers becoming lifelong learners has become even more important than the students, because if teachers are lifelong learners, students capture the essence of what teacher is doing and they also will follow the practices because they will always adore the faculty members. If you are not doing self-learning by yourself, students will also not do it. And therefore, my appeal to all the faculty members who are attending this session is, you should first become lifelong learners, then only you can preach students to be one. And therefore, all the curriculum revision that we have done in all gamuts of technical knowledge, be it engineering, be it management, hotel management, applied art, craft, design. We have also done it in architecture and pharmacy. We have also done it in diploma education. The curriculum is revised to include all emerging areas, in all areas of education, that is from in engineering, for example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, 3D printing, blockchain, augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud computing, cyber security. And these subjects are no more only engineering subjects, but for management schools also, artificial intelligence, data analytics, data science is as important. Go to medical field, you need to understand the spread of disease, how is it happening, and therefore to control it, what precautions are to be done. Lot of huge amount of data collection, interpretation, and then making use of that is required. Same is the case with agriculture. How do you change the crop pattern? When do you get more yield? If there are some diseases and some attacks happening on the crops, what precautions are to be taken? Which area is to be isolated? Again, we have a lot of data science, AI, machine learning coming to handy. And each one of these can also use robots, can use drones. And therefore, there is no domain which is left out. For example, hotel management. And if the supply of food is to be done, we see that people go on motorcycles and and serve the food within 20 minutes, and because of traffic jam, if it is not delivered on time, there are many times issues. Can we make use of drones to supply such kind of food packets? Or medicines in the areas where there are possibly some disasters which happen, unfortunately, maybe flood, maybe earthquake. So the technologies today are going to be useful for humanities and social sciences as much as to engineering and all other branches of studies that we are doing. And the other part is, as I said, teacher should get empowered, and therefore under our Atal Academy, constantly we have been training faculty members. For the consecutive 2 years, we received the World Book of Record from UK for training maximum number of faculty in a pandemic year. 1.5 lakh first year, and again another 1.5 lakh in the second year. We are ongoing this exercise now. Gradually from online, we may have face-to-face mode of such training programs coming in this year. We have a mix of both, that is the blended one. And therefore, future of learning is what we do with teachers will automatically get replicated in the colleges and universities. So what we have done in our new faculty development program is the classes for faculty development program will be in the evening from 5:30 to 7 o'clock or 7:30 in the late evening, so that their normal duty they can perform. 1 week they spend in the online mode, and then they will be taken to an institution where there are a lot of physical interactions, laboratory experiments, actual hands-on practical projects for 1 week. Thereby their theory is also strengthened, their practice skill sets are also strengthened. Taking a cue from such a blended model of faculty development program, I'm sure each faculty in his or in her own innovative way, in their own college, may call a set of students for a class in 1 day, some other set of students in a class on another day, give some project to first batch, give another project to the second batch, let them do it outside the classroom, in the field, collecting a lot of data, interpreting that data. Thereby they will become analytic, they will become critical thinkers, they will be able to find solutions to the problems that they observe in the society and bring it back into the college, university, where all students will again come together someday and they will discuss, each one of them, what innovation they have done. I think that is the spirit of education, of creating inquisitiveness in the minds of students. Be aware of the challenges that the planet is facing today. We all know the United Nations has 17 Sustainable Development Goals. How each one of those goals can be addressed by our students through projects, mini projects, is also important. And while developing new technologies, how we take care of our environment, concern for nature, concern for environment, concern for fellow citizens, creating good citizens. I think that is also a role that educational institution has to play. And that's why our universal human values elective is converted into a mandatory subject for all students. Our ancient wisdom in terms of Indian knowledge system is also being made mandatory for students to learn about various practices that have lived for thousands of years and which will be useful in pandemic kind of a situation in uncertain period. Dimensional or institutional collaboration, which is also important. We also require to develop innovative spirit amongst our students. And finally, making students to have education even in the mother tongue in the higher education. That is why we have been promoting languages, and each student, be it from a tribal area or wherever, whichever remote area, he has done 10th, 12th grade in the mother tongue, that student also must get an opportunity to take up higher education in his own language. We have created an AI-based translation tool which automatically translates books and these video courses of MOOC into 12 Indian languages today, and we want to have them in as many languages as possible, including a small population in remotest Nagaland or Manipur or Mizoram. They should also feel empowered in the process. I think I can go on as a professor, but time is limited, so I stop here. I'm seeing Father coming on the screen, so that gives an indication that I have to close and allow some questions to be asked by the audience, and I would like to answer.
Sir, there are about 5-6 questions. May I ask them one by one? Is that okay? So first question is from AIMA members, which asks, how do you think digital and hybrid classrooms changed education?
See, we have been used to, for a long, long time, only physical education. Only in the last 2 decades, we started some portion into what we call online part. We allowed some credits to be taken, but the number of takers were less. People always had a doubt that the learning can take place only in the classrooms and it cannot take place in an online mode. But our observation in the last 2 years is, if the quality of internet is good, if the quality of device is good, if the quality of teacher is good, there is no difference between online and the face-to-face. Because, then a student is always interested in learning because the faculty delivering a lecture is making it so interesting that we have found that if the teacher is bad, even in a physical class, students' attention is outside, roaming around outside and not active in the class at all. So therefore, there is no difference between the two. But there are some places where we still need the face-to-face mode of education because you need to have some difficulties to be solved by showing something. Probably you will not be able to do it on the spot in an online class, and therefore this hybrid mode, or what we call the blended mode, or the mixed mode, where you name anything, this is also going to be important. So we need both. Let us make use of each one of their strengths effectively, and their weaknesses are also known to us, and those weaknesses to be overcome.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Second question is, what, according to you, are the capacities and competencies which you think would be required from the educators of the future? I think this touches faculty development and what you've been talking about.
Yeah, I've been talking about faculty development because this faculty who have come into the system as educators, they must be passionate. They may have less knowledge, doesn't matter. Once you have passion, you have inquisitiveness, you will find out the information, convert it into useful knowledge, convert it into wisdom, and then share it with your students who will develop more applications out of that. So the capacity building is very, very important. That's why the nuances of the pedagogical aspect, how do you deal with students? How you have to set up an examination paper where inquisitiveness of the student further increases. If you ask questions which are based on rote learning, inquisitiveness will never come. You must have questions where a student will have to think. He will not get the ready-made answer from the textbook, but a lot of critical thinking based on that. He has to create something new. Maybe it will work, may not work, doesn't matter. There may be failure, but such failures must be respected, must be encouraged. But students should not make the same mistakes, same failures again and again. You just drive home that what you have learned lesson from that failure, don't repeat that failure. You have every right to do another failure, different type of a failure. And that is the spirit which we have to imbibe in the educators.
Thank you, sir. So on meeting so many teachers in the last year, and we wish more. That has been great. The third question is, how would automation of teaching change the economics and regulation of education?
As I've said, I'm not fully in favor of full digital education in some of the fields. In some areas, it is possible that should be automated, fine. It will reduce the cost of education. It will become very affordable. Today, if a student has to come physically to a college and pay that high fee, as well as living in a city. See, imagine a person in a remote tribal area or a village, he has to come to a city, stay in a hostel, paying guest or whatever. Food, otherwise he would have been taking at home. Today he has to spend for the mess bill. He has to pay the rent of the housing accommodation and then also fee of the college. Imagine the kind of expenditure. Whereas if it is delivered at home, he is taking education at home, taking home food. I think what a wonderful phenomenon it is. But some cases it is not possible. That is where automation may not work. We may have to have some at least physical classes also.
Good. The fourth question, sir, is on your advice on quality, once again for improving quality of education and maintaining it. This is for professors, institutions.
See, we have all been talking about regulatory bodies who give approval to run the programs, be it technical by AICTE or otherwise by UGC and the universities who affiliate the colleges. But ultimately, the quality is tested through accreditation. So we are saying that all institutions must go through the cycle of accreditation. It is not for someone else. It is for your own self-development, for quality improvement. Quality enhancement cell must be there in every educational institution doing innovation in teaching learning process. And you must go through that rigor to assess yourself, and this assessment, when it is done by third party, a lot of best practices from other institutions will be told to you, and you can adopt them and continuously become better and better. See, this quality is a parameter which cannot be said that we have achieved final quality. It is a constant improvement which is possible in every best institution also in the world, not just in our state or our country itself.
So we are coming closer to time, but two questions are there. One is by a doctor, Ruma Chatterjee. For doctor's profession, how far it is helpful besides data science?
Madam, data science is useful for every discipline. I just gave an example. You have huge number of case studies. If based on all of that, by using artificial intelligence, if we are able to get a solution quickly, because one doctor would have got experience of some type of patients, another doctor has got another set of patients, the embodiment of knowledge that is gathered from all of them, if it is available in one-stop solution, then you may interpret it accordingly. So therefore, AI data science will make use as a tool. And finally, judgment has to be taken by the human being. And therefore, both technology as well as our brain power and mind power is also equally important.
And one last question will be from me, but before that, there's one more question. What steps should older universities take to embrace new framework which you described?
I think one who has got capacity in terms of build space, faculty, and wherewithal should expand number of programs, thereby you become multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary in nature. But those who have limitation of space, they can collaborate. I told about VUCA world, and that see the complexity can be overcome by commitment and by collaboration. So if you collaborate with like-minded institutions in the neighborhood, I'm sure you will be able to create a framework of interdisciplinary studies. Faculty from that institute can come and take some classes here for your program, and your faculty should be allowed to take classes in another program. And that will make it a win-win situation for both the institutions.
And my question, this is from me. Recently, we heard the announcement, students can enroll in 2 degrees at the same time. Could you enlighten us on this? This is good news.
No, I think even earlier, some of the students were doing it. And they were doing one course full-time and another course somewhere part-time or evening or what you call online, etc., which was not noticed, or it was treated as unfortunately illegal. And that very few were able to do it because it was not permitted. Today, when it is permitted, I'm sure even though 2 full-time courses may be difficult, certainly difficult because there are timetable issues, you have to attend classes in that institute and another institute, so difficulties may be there. But as far as 1 degree in a physical space and 1 in an online mode is easily possible because you have Saturday, Sunday, evening hours when you can learn lessons from the online portal and then give the exam. So very easily you will have multidisciplinary degrees possible. So you have 1 degree of commerce and 1 other degree of data science, or you have a degree in physics along with that a degree of philosophy. You know, these things are very easily possible. You can connect the dots. You can become much more holistic in your attributes, and your employability and skills of entrepreneurship will also in the process improve.
Yeah. Sir, we thank you. I just want to summarize, maybe if you want to say some message for all of us at the end of it, most welcome. But may I summarize one or two points that, first of all, thank you for reflecting with us so beautifully on the journey, evolution of education, right from the beginning till today, from traditional small group, ancient times, to mass education today. And thank you for also touching upon the solution to the VUCA world, reverse it, accept it, collaborate it, and unite together in solutions and have the spirit of collaboration. And so thank you for this and gain victories over our education of the past and making it more affordable, more reachable for everyone. I think that's a great lesson in reflecting on education for the future. I also thank you for touching upon the digital university, the hub and spokes model. That was good, wonderful to see. Thank you for answering all the questions, queries, and AI-based National Education Alliance. You touched upon that, and many other questions that we all asked of you. Thank you for touching upon the spirit of innovation, of sustainability, and how faculty are models for the students, and universal human values. That was your really the core of it, and I want to thank you. Thank you for reassuring us of a bright future and a glorious future for Indian education. Sir, your last verse, yes.
Yeah, I had skipped one thing to keep it as a last mile approach for the education, and that is why I left it earlier. Now I am speaking that. It is about internships. All students, be it from any background, they need to go into the society, maybe in industry, small, big, small scale startups, or even in villages or in their localities, see the world around and try to apply the knowledge that you are getting in the classroom to the practice that is happening. So you learn the practices from the field, apply it to different other areas, and if you don't do it, our education is not going to be meaningful. And therefore, all the skills we develop, all the knowledge we gain will be put to test when we go into the society to perform. And therefore, how it is already performing has to be visualized. That will improve our employability. So my appeal is to even arts college students, commerce college students, science college students, not just engineering or medicine or architecture, they must go for a mandatory 6 months internship to, I will not say only industry, it can be even into the society also.
Great. Sir, thank you from AIMA's side and from my side and all the participants. It's been very delightful to listen to you. Thank you very much from our hearts, and we appreciate all you do. Thank you.